Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good following morning. This is AMA. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good following morning. This is AMA number 93. 93. It is September 29th, 2022. I'm here with Rabbi Avi Baumel.
Shalom from Israel. Welcome everyone. It is the 4th of Tishrei, and it is the period of the 10 days of repentance. So let's all repent.
We're very excited today to have a special guest, Rabbi Josh Franklin, who is the senior rabbi of one of my favorite synagogues in the world, JCOH, the Jewish Center of the Hamptons. Who's a good guy.
Looking forward to seeing him again.
Avi, I have a question. When you were giving the date on the Hebrew calendar, I saw you checked your watch. 2 days after Rosh Hashanah, are you not sure of the month?
I blame the gullus. I blame the exile that I follow the Goyish calendar, and I just don't have it like clear in my head. But we should, yeah. Yesterday was Tzom Gedalia, so I should have known.
Does seem like, considering our proximity to Rosh Hashanah, that the date might stick in your head.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Speaking of Rosh Hashanah, it was a Rosh Hashanah to end all Rosh Hashanahs, or to begin all years.
It was a rush. Rosh Hashanah was a rush.
It was really good. It was really fun. A lot of people. Nice to see the JCC bustling. All different things going on.
It was 200 people, four separate dinners, 4 separate seders, 2 led by you, 1 led by Olga Adamovska, and 1 led by a visiting Rabbi Ilana Baird from the JCC in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, it's amazing that you figure out a way to make 2 shifts. So the families are happy, the seniors are happy. It's a little early. It was full. It was really nice to see the families. I'd say, I don't know, there were like 20 families, I'd say, and they were really products of JCC coming through. So it was really beautiful.
Yeah, no, it was a really, it went perfectly, and the food was good, and everybody was in a good mood, and the weather was okay. And I mean, we had it indoors, but the weather was okay, and they were able to change in between, get, the dinners ended and switch over and clean up and all the logistics. It was great. So let's say hello, Saul Schachter. Welcome back. Greetings from Long Island. Hello, Saul Schachter, recent visitor to Krakow.
Recent volunteer.
Jeffrey Rolat, happy to see us together. Happy New Year,
man.
Jeffrey Rolat and Benji.
How's Jeff doing?
Wow, Saul, Jeffrey, and Benji. The comments, unbelievable. Well, we're missing just Randy Brenowitz to have our 4 most devoted Kathy Bates-esque fans.
Nice. Yeah, the shofar sounded good. I want you to know. We prayed together in the synagogue, and then I blew again in the J. It was a good, strong shofar sound. So that obviously has great meaning and significance for the future in our lives.
If the shofar isn't blown well at whatever, it's a bad omen for the year.
Bad omen. The last sound, the Tekiah Gedola. If it's not a doozy, it's bad times ahead.
Well, you know who the synagogue should who should do it then?
Dizzy Gillespie.
Yes, Dizzy Gillespie would be one. I was actually putting forth my humble self as someone with immaculate breath control.
Ability
to blow the shofar and hold my breath for long periods of time. I was putting myself forward as a candidate.
Okay. It's possible that your candidacy would be but there's some strict guidelines for who's allowed to blow the shofar. So
go ahead, lay it on me.
First of all, it says it should be pirko na'eh. He should have a nice face and a good big beard.
Okay. Well, you don't have a beard.
I know. That's why I'm puzzled. I'm a little bit on the. I got in through a loophole. if you don't have a beard, but you have smicha. So
What about just my beloved position in the world?
also he has to be married, and he has to be
Married,
a
married.
leader in the world. Has to have someone that's respected by all.
Hello. You're talking about me without a
Jo,
beard.
man,
It's
that's
all
right
about
there.
it's all about Jo. Rabbi Avi, it was a very successful Rosh Hashanah. We're hoping it'll be a successful year. Depends by what metrics we use and what terms we use to define successful. But we'll see about that. We'll see about that. We took off August and just starting after Rosh Hashanah. So it's been 2 months, Avi, since we have been here. What's
Wow.
new in Avi world? What have you been up to? August and September, Avi.
Wow, August and September. I have to jog my memory. I was in America, which was really special. And that's thanks to you, Jonathan. So I need to give a hat tip because Rabbi Idan Sher from the synagogue in Ottawa, Canada, came and was blown away by JCC. And he said to you, Rabbi Jonathan, when can you come and be a scholar in residence? And you said, Mom, my schedule is kind of full, but there is another rabbi
For Ottawa, to go to
for
Ottawa.
Ottawa. Yeah.
Right.
So I took up his offer, and it was wonderful. I tell you, the community is beautiful. They were so happy, and it was like a memorial for this amazing guy who passed away, a survivor. And it was just I've never been to Ottawa, so very successful. And I was able to go to New York as well to see Oma, who's going to be 94.
Avi's grandma, Oma, who's wonderful. By the way, interestingly, in a strange situation, I was approached to be the scholar in residence in a couple months in Las Vegas. And strangely, I was able to somehow fit that one into my schedule. So I will be attending.
Once again, if there's a problem, you let me know, because it's hard to fill your shoes, but I will make the sacrifice. I've never been to Las Vegas.
I think Las Vegas, I'm going to actually be able to make it to. I've been to Las Vegas many times. The last time was with Jeffrey Rolat and Lori. Jeffrey was watching, and Kasha. We had to expose Kasha to Las Vegas. But this January, God willing, I will be in Las Vegas. And I thought that the Jewish community there really needs a little more enlightening about Jewish life in Poland. So I might extend that trip a little bit beyond just the Shabbat.
Well, I was going to ask you, what it's like, but what happens in Vegas, so we're going to just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm in my current boring iteration. I don't think too much stuff is going to happen, but I have been to Vegas numerous times, and at different more exciting stages of my life.
So that was a big part of my September, or the beginning of my September. What about you? You had a trip yourself?
It's been a decent amount of travel. We were determined to travel as much as we can with the baby, to get her used to travel, and also because it's pretty much almost free with the baby to travel until age 2. So we're gonna milk that for all it's worth. So
Nice.
in August we were away for most of August. Most of that was in the U.S., a little bit of Mexico. That was giving a lot of speeches, doing some stuff. And now in September we were in Israel for a few days, which was very nice. I brought we took the baby to the holy city of Tel Aviv, which she liked the beach as much as her parents. And I just went to New York actually for a few days, which was very hectic, very intense, but really nice. I was brought in by UJA Federation in New York. I did 3 talks for them in 4 days, including the Long Island campaign kickoff, the major donor campaign kickoff, which was a big deal event in a really beautiful house that they tented the lawn, and something very pretty amazing to do that. About 150 people, 180 people, I forget exactly. And that was nice. And I did a few other talks and some meetings. So good time in New York. It was different, very different being there by myself. There was a lot less ice cream, a lot less shopping, a lot less actual eating. But some quality time with President Warner, and got some good work done.
Fantastic. So we both traveled around and got back to Krakow and got back to business, and it's nice. I had a class on a Friday night just last week, and it was full. You came in, you popped your head in on a Saturday afternoon, actually, and it was.
I just landed.
Yeah.
That was the last direct flight of the year of the season from Krakow to New York. So, yeah, I will tell you something interesting that happened to me on the flight. I don't believe I told you this, Avi. On my flight to New York, I sat down and I'm sitting next to a chassid, full on chassid, real deal, payas, the whole thing. And I was kind of like, okay, sitting next to a chassid, that'll be exciting, and at a certain point started talking to each other and really hit it off. And I spent about 3 hours of my flight talking to this very, very cool guy who runs an interior design firm with like 40 employees, and most of them aren't Jewish, and people in Ukraine, and fascinating guy. And we talked about the New York Times article about Hasidic education, and we talked about the idea of the Hasidic world open versus closed versus this and that. It was absolutely fascinating. Really cool guy. We've been, I'm in touch with him, WhatsApping, and surprising.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience on my flight from New York. I sat down, 2 Hasidim to my right. I thought, okay, we've had experience. This isn't going to go well. I was opposite of my experiences in the past. Lovely people, very friendly, very respectful, very polite with the stewardess and other people in the cabin. And we talked for a while. And they even said they're going to do a blessing for me. So I got some Hasidic guy in a grave somewhere doing some blessings, which is unusual for me. But
no, this was to me fantastic. I'm usually not, it wouldn't happen very often that I would talk to the person next to me at all, to be honest. I'm a little bit in my own world. But this was fascinating when we got to really have an interesting discussion about things and about, the Hasidic world being closed and the idea of the community versus the individual and things really pretty. But at a certain point, he's like, I have a brother. He's a little more liberal than I am. Of course, he's in Lakewood, and I was like, oh, Lakewood's pretty, as if Lakewood was like Las Vegas, So it was
the wild, crazy brother in Lakewood.
Crazy, yeah. So Yossi's my new friend.
That's great.
Maybe before we bring Josh in, and I'm excited to talk to him. I get to see him over the summer when I spoke at the synagogue, and he was here visiting. Great guy. We should talk about Ukraine. What's still going on? Obviously, the war continues. Over 7 months in, our efforts here have not slowed down. We're still doing all we can to help Ukraine. A lot of what I've been speaking about lately is, of course, what we've been doing with Ukraine. I posted today on Facebook. There were photos from yesterday. There were about 70 people online, 60, 70 people online before the building opened yesterday. And then throughout the day, just hundreds of people came in. And then, that continues. So that while it's not in the news as much, and while people aren't coming across from Ukraine at the rate that they were, the need is still there. There are still a couple million Ukrainians in Poland, and we're doing our best to take care of them.
Yeah. It's hard to keep the intensity. When we see the lines, we're able to do that. But when the rest of the world moves on with all the other things going on to distract us, we forget.
It's hard.
So when I see the lines, I'm reminded. But I'm also reminded because we've started to create a community of in the Jewish community of Ukrainians that are refugees, and working with them, we had a tour for them, and I give them Divrei Torah, and we translate our meals into Ukrainian as well. So that's a beautiful thing that they really integrated.
Absolutely. I just want to say a quick shout out. I see our friend Rabbi Creditor is saying hi. Gemar Chatima Tova. Menachem, good to see you, former AMA guest. And with that, let us bring in Rabbi Josh Franklin. Rabbi Josh Franklin is the senior rabbi of the Jewish Center of the Hamptons, which is in East Hampton. He's been there for 4 years. Before that, He was at Temple Beth Elohim in Wellesley, another synagogue that I know very well, which is a phenomenal community. He is a crusader for social justice. He's on many committees, local committees there in the Hamptons, including police reform, mental health, and substance use. Just a guy that we got to know a little bit here in Krakow. And then I had the opportunity to reconnect with him this summer, and is just a wonderful, inspiring guy. So great. Thanks for finding the time during this busy season for a rabbi. Hi, Josh.
It is indeed, but thanks so much for having me. And for you guys, we make time for the things that are important. So I'm here with you.
Wow.
Thank you, Rabbi Josh. Pleasure to see you, but you're too overdressed. It makes us feel like, we're all slacking here. So I don't know, maybe that's the Hamptons. You got to be always looking sharp.
I'll take off my jacket if that's helpful.
No, it's good. You're looking good. Rabbi Avi,
All right.
don't shame.
All right, now I feel better.
No shaming.
All right,
our guest, Rabbi Avi. So Josh, I want to kind of go through a little bit your journey, how you became a rabbi, got to where you are, and sort of along the way, what's been interesting to you. Also, I want to talk to you a little bit later about your time in Poland, your impressions of what's happening here. But first, where did you grow up?
I originally grew up in Yonkers, New York, and my Jewish community was in Riverdale. So big Jewish community. My father was the rabbi at Riverdale Temple in New York. And I used to say growing up that I knew very specifically that I didn't want to be a rabbi, whereas most people, this rabbinic revelation is just kind of like, I think I'm going to be a rabbi. I was like, I know I'm never going to be a rabbi, because if you're the child of a rabbi, you are asked that question all the time, incessantly, nonstop. Are you going to be a rabbi just like your father? And I was like, no, that's his thing and not mine. I had a strong Jewish identity, and I went to Jewish summer camp, president of my youth group, all that stuff. But it was just, that was a part of my life, but not my life.
So very strong identity, and just understood about your relationship to being a rabbi was that you understood you didn't want to be a rabbi.
Yeah. And then I had the flash moment, which probably took place in college. I went to a small liberal arts school, Clark University in Worcester, Mass.
With Ariana Shudrick.
Yeah, that's right. She was in Hillel with me. I think she sat on the Hillel board with me. And I was over there and didn't know what I wanted to study. That's why I went to a small liberal arts school like that. Started taking Jewish studies classes on a whim, because I thought, I'm going to do really well. I'm the son of a rabbi. Should be able to do okay. An intro to Hebrew Bible. And it was hard. It was really hard. It forced me to explore Torah in a way that I had never really seen before. And I just started taking Hebrew, other Jewish studies classes, and really actually I discovered my calling. I was like, wow, this is meaningful stuff. And I started teaching in a religious school. I studied abroad in Israel. And all of a sudden I realized that this was my calling, and that question, do you want to be a rabbi? And the extreme no that I was always answering just became less and less of a no until it became a yes. This is exactly what I want to do. And here I am many years later.
And what about what was your father's relationship to you being a rabbi? Was there any expectation on his part? Was he, and what did he think when you eventually got on that path?
Yeah, I don't think he ever expected me to be a rabbi either, because of my incessant understanding, like, I'm not going to be a rabbi. But he never pushed me. It was really, I came to this on my own. And I think I'm a very different rabbi than my father, which is that old joke, synagogue hires a new rabbi. They actually hire the son of the rabbi who was there before, because they think, he's going to do exactly the same thing. He's going to toe the line, and we're going to have consistency in our community. The new rabbi comes in, the son, and he starts changing traditions, changing melodies. And this Ford comes to him and says, what are you doing? You're changing everything. We thought that you were going to be just like your father. He says, I am just like my father. I came in and I changed everything. And I think I'm different than my dad. And my relationship with God is very different. My theology is very different. My style of worship, my style of preaching is very different. What led us here is very different. But at the same time, we're both rabbis. We're both serving the Jewish people. And I guess we came to that just from different places.
Well, Rabbi Josh, as a rabbi, the son of a rabbi who's the son of a rabbi who's the son of a rabbi, I could tell you that it's rare.
26 generations back.
It's rare because my grandfather was a big rabbi, and his son chose to not be a rabbi. He got smicha, but he never, ever, ever became a rabbi as a result of that, to be the son of. And I was the grandson of, so for me, it was a little easier. The path was easier. So I kind of recognized that being the son of is it's not an easy task to find. That's why you found your own way, and it's pretty remarkable.
I guess what I had to figure out is, I grew up and my identity vis-a-vis the community was, my father's the rabbi and it was his community, and I had to figure out how to find my own community and my own way, my own relationship to Judaism. And I think that's the challenge of every rabbi's child. We call ourselves RKs, rabbi's kid. We have to figure out how Judaism is meaningful for us in our relationship with God on our own, in our own communities. And sometimes that's challenging because so much of the Jewish life that's imbued upon us is from our parents or from, now we have many female rabbis, from our fathers and our mothers who are rabbis.
Yeah, I learned a lot from my grandfather, what to do and also what not to do. I was very careful when I was a rabbi about how much time I tried to spend with my children, because my grandfather never spent any time with his children. And I think back in the day, that was just what you did because your whole community is your child.
Yeah.
So I feel like of the three of us, there are two rabbis on the call, and one of the three of us, father did nothing but tell him that he should be a rabbi. And that's the one of us who isn't a rabbi. So as I have just, I'm new to this whole parent thing. You guys have quite a head start. Certainly Rabbi Avi has a real head start on both of us, Josh, but it seems to me that by pushing your kid very firmly in one direction is probably not the best way to get them to go in that direction.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Every summer I bring out a rabbi who I study with for a few days. His name is Rabbi Alan Ullman. He's from the Boston area, really one of the best teachers of Torah I've ever seen, ever studied with. And 24/7, we'd wake up, sunrise, Torah study. We'd then have breakfast, Torah study. We'd hike, Torah study. And my daughter observed this. I never pushed my daughter to study Torah with me. It's hard, right? But she observed this and she goes, "Daddy, I want to study Torah with you and Rabbi Ullman."
Wow.
And it was for me never asking her, but her seeing the joy of Torah study in my face and what I'm doing and how much meaning it brought to me. Sometimes you don't want to push your kids, it was completely unintentional. I never thought she was going to say that, especially being a rabbi's kid myself. But there is that sense of the more joy that your kids can see in your life, they're going to want to emulate that. They're going to want a piece of it. They're going to want a part of it. And now my daughter, every now and then, she says, "Daddy, I think we haven't studied Torah in a while. Can we study some Torah?" And
whoa.
That's a big joy for me. But it comes from me not pushing.
That's amazing.
Not pushing, but making sure or enabling her to see the benefit and the beauty that it gives you, what it gives you and that you see in it. And she sees it through, I guess, to some degree through your eyes and how much interest it has for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Josh, if I didn't know anything about you and I never met you, I would say, all right, he after getting smicha, he goes to Beth Elohim in Wellesley and then to the Jewish Center of the Hamptons. This guy, he's got to be doing something right in life because he's going from strength to strength in terms of two pretty interesting, phenomenal, not your average community. So can you talk a little bit about that first time at Beth Elohim? First of all, as I hope, and I'm sure a Yankee fan, it must have been very difficult for you to be in Boston coming from Yonkers. Yeah,
I had to save all the great stories for my sermons. Like I have a lot of Yankee stories in my sermons.
Of course.
Every now and then, now that I'm back in New York, I talk about Doc Gooden as a model of Teshuvah, being this all-star player for the Mets and then coming to the Yankees, really slumping and just not being that great. And then having these glimpses of greatness and coming back around, and never would have played in Boston ever. No. But back in my home state with a lot of Yankee fans, and I can tell those stories now. you're right. Beth Elohim, an amazing community that I wound up at. Sometimes I think I have imposter syndrome. I think it's luck of the draw that I wound up where I am. Uh, I never could have imagined a greater place to learn how to become a rabbi, and with great rabbis around me, Rabbi Joel Sissenwein, Rabbi Philip Sherman, Rabbi Rachel Sapphire, Cantor Jody Suffren, amazing mentors to me, colleagues to me, who just have so many different skill sets in the rabbinate and the cantorate. One of the fascinating things that I've learned is that there's no one archetype for what a rabbi looks like. You just got to be yourself, and you got to bring your own passions to the position. And that's what I did. And I do it all the time. Refugees were a passion of mine. Beth Elohim really allowed me to explore how to really create a justice issue out of bringing refugees over and supporting refugees at a time when there was the Syrian refugee crisis. I gave a sermon, and all of a sudden the sermon turned into a group that was passionate about the same issue. And then the group, with the help of Ed Shapiro, who we actually had speak with you, Jonathan, at the Jewish Center, I just became this great partner. He started the Shapiro Foundation after this to really make it one of his life's missions to be able to support refugees. We brought in several Syrian refugee families, supported them, raised a huge amount of money. After I left, it became an issue that continued on. They brought in an Afghani family. They're bringing in a Ukrainian family. I bring my passions to the rabbinate every which way. Later today, I'm planning a golf charity tournament. And you might say, that's not a Jewish thing, but actually being a part of nature and being able to relate to congregants and show them how important really relating to the environment around us is through the lessons of golf is weirdly a Jewish thing. I like to say that too often in the world, we talk about this idea of work-life balance. And you mentioned that a little bit earlier. How do we spend time with our kids? But I actually think that's the wrong question. It's not how we balance work and life. In the rabbinate, I think it's how you actually bring your life to work and how you bring your work or the rabbinate home into your life. Shabbat dinners with my family and inviting congregants, that's what I do. That's who I am. And people say that's you being a rabbi, and that's also me being a father, and that's also me being a human being. And the line is porous between work and life, between being the rabbinate and life, between home and being in the office.
Yes,
and
I think you're right, and I think as somebody else who has in the traditional sense zero, almost no border between work and life, and when you're a part of a community, that's the case. But I think this is the way that we as people live for most of our history. This idea of separating your life from your work and going off to the factory or to the office or something is a reasonably recent invention. For most of the time, we didn't have that, and this is not something unnatural. This is something that's just taking more of a holistic view of our existence.
Yeah,
I want to tell you a rabbi. One of the typical rabbi stories. I was in Ottawa. I'm in this new community. I've never been there. And I speak Friday night, and people come over to me, and one guy comes over to me and he says, "You remember me?" I said, "No." He said, "I was in Vancouver where you were a rabbi 20 years ago." So I said to myself, this could go either way. I don't know what's going to happen now. And he said, "I want you to know that I was just a stranger in the community, and you came over and you invited us for dinner and for Friday night, and you had a whole table full of people, and it made such an impression on me, and I remember it till this day." And I'm thinking, wow, you have the chance to have an imprint on something for many years, and that's only happens when you're constantly on. So I certainly hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that.
I love that idea that these people come up all the time, right? And say, that sermon you gave 10 years ago when you said such and such and changed my life. And you think to yourself, that's really wise. I don't think I said that though. Or, there's so many little things that happen. A handshake, a hug, pat on the back, one word that you say to somebody, you never know how it impacts their lives and changes them.
Especially when, I think that's true to some degree for everybody, but even more true, obviously, for people that are in a position of authority and a position of responsibility and a position of influence and a position of community leadership, where people are, want to, see what you do and are affected in that way by what you do. Yeah, you mentioned Ed Shapiro. Actually, we have a call with Ed and with the foundation tonight. So that's to me an amazing example of, first of all, how we're all so interconnected, that we get to know Ed, and then Ed says, oh, I was at Beth Elohim and Josh and this whole thing. But that you're talking about, you give a sermon or something that you're passionate about and bring it to the people in your community, and you inspire a few people or many people, but one of them happens to be somebody who has has the means to and takes a decision to make that his life's work, and then is involved in an incredibly influential way on an international multi-million dollar scale of helping refugees, that we can all play sliding doors with everything, but you can draw a pretty straight line to Rabbi Josh Franklin giving a certain sermon, and Ed Shapiro's foundation and helping people all around the world, including
even more minor. Ed didn't hear the sermon. I was at a cocktail hour at a fundraiser at Beth Elohim with Ed, and I'm telling him about some of the work that this refugee resettlement committee is doing. He's like, I'm passionate about this too, and I'm trying to figure out how to be supportive as well. Thinking, oh, you should come along and really join this group. And he did. And he made such an impact in the community. And then he decided, not only does he want to involve himself in the community in this one particular way, he wants to make it his life's work. I don't think I had 100% of that revelatory moment for him. I think he was well on the path already. But that one conversation at a cocktail hour, having to be in line, getting a drink at the very same time as him, really the right place at the right time changed that community dramatically to get Ed involved.
Yeah, no, and it's been remarkable for us and transformative, for what we've been able to do with his foundation support. So that's something that that you should, that it's nice to see when you can draw lines like that. Obviously, it's a little more complicated, and he was on the path to some degree, but there's no question. It's nice when you can see, wait a minute, this is something that I've been able to have such an effect on people. Was it a difficult decision to leave Beth Elohim and to go to East Hampton?
Yeah, Beth Elohim is a community that I love and still love. I was back there in May for the party retirement for Cantor Jody Suffren. And I received a huge warm welcome back. It's a community that I really loved, but I love the community, but I didn't necessarily love being one of four rabbis. I wanted to be in my own place. I wanted to be growing as much as I possibly could. And I realized that I was at Beth Elohim for 4 years, and if I stayed there another 4 years, I'd be doing exactly the same things. And I wanted new challenges, new growth moments, new opportunities, different things to do. I wanted to be teaching more. I wanted to be in the pulpit more. And in order to do that, I needed to move on in my career and move. And so I did. I didn't know the Hamptons was going to be the place. I was kind of interviewing at a bunch of places, and thought, no, Hampton, they're not going to want me. They're going to want some celebrity rabbi. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, they're like, no, we do want you. Got a call back from them, and just thought to myself, oh, they're just, we'll see. But it turned out it's been a great fit for the last, been here 5 years. I'm in year 6. Wow. The community is growing tremendously. We're, now up 75 families in 3 years. It's a lot of growth for a community that was just over 300 families when I got here, and now we're just over 400 families.
Amazing. No, and a testament to you. It's an interesting community. First of all, people have these ideas about the Hamptons, tremendous wealth and all that. Now, that's which is interesting. Obviously adds a certain component to it. This is not an average community in any sense, which means that the synagogue there is not just, and obviously certain things are universal and Shabbat is Shabbat, but there's other complex elements that I want to get into a little bit. One is the nature of, this idea of not necessarily a year-round community as much as just a regular community. Now, I think it's become a lot more of a year-round community over the years, and certainly with COVID, speeding that up. But this idea of being in this place that's just, one of the wealthiest places in the world really is exactly where the synagogue is one thing that I want to talk about. And also just the beauty of the synagogue itself. I know I always tell you when I see you is, that to me is the most beautiful synagogue that I've ever been in my life. And I've been in hundreds and, all over the world. And that this
Rabbi,
the Norman Jaffe Synagogue that you get to spend all this time in is just phenomenal.
Rabbi Josh,
Sure.
Jonathan came back to Krakow and he just raved about the synagogue. And when we met in Krakow and we schmoozed and you said, come by, one time, I should still take you up on that offer. I end up sometimes in the West, but I have to come out to the East to see what it's like.
Yeah, West Hampton and East Hampton. I know your mother's still in East Hampton.
My mother, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, they're right next door, but they're a little farther away than that.
So Josh, maybe talk a little bit about the synagogue, because that's, I think, the easier part of it. And then maybe let's talk a little bit about the community and the nature of being the rabbi in such a wealthy community, and also a community where there's so much seasonal change in the community.
And the demography out in the Hamptons and in the synagogue is completely bonkers. We try to make predictions in terms of how many people are going to come to this event, how many people are out here, what other events are going on, and who's out this weekend. And we just, we sometimes miss radically. It's just so happens to be a community that has a lot of weekenders. A lot of people spend their time in the city, they work in the city, and then they have their homes out in the Hamptons where they really spend their family time. About a lot of our community, maybe about 40% of our community is indeed full-time and live out here in the Hamptons. And then we have people who are really seasonal, who are just out here over the summer, close their houses for the winter and don't come back until Memorial Day weekend. It's really a giant amalgam of a lot of different types of people, but I would also say an important thing, socioeconomic diversity as well. One of the misconceptions about the Hamptons is that it's just purely wealth. Well, who do you think are the workers who support the wealthy individuals and the restaurants and the teachers and all of the different blue collar jobs that are actually out here? And because things are more expensive out here, it creates a significant income disparity between the uber wealthy and the working class out here. So the food pantries, especially during COVID, had huge, enormous amounts of need because most of them worked these hourly jobs, became unemployed overnight. Our responsibility, and we do a lot of social action work, and some people say, why do you need to do social action work? It's all rich people. And it's not. We have significant poverty in the Hamptons, and people just don't see it because the image that you might typically get is just the glitz and the glamour of the Hamptons. So one of our responsibilities as a community is not just in our demographic makeup of the community, having diversity and socioeconomic diversity, but really to also support those in the larger community, the larger Hamptons community, who are in need through our social action programs, which we do a lot of. But we do things a little bit differently too. In general, our Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah service was on the beach this year for the third year in a row. Something that was new during COVID, but has been a COVID keeper for us.
I saw those pictures. They look fantastic.
Yeah, Erev Rosh Hashanah used to be for us the least attended high holiday service that we had. And now it's probably the most attended high holiday service that we have. And
what did you do on the beach?
Erev Rosh Hashanah, the entire service. So we can't do a day service. We can't do anything with the Torah on the beach. We really do need a structure for that. But our evening service, we decided to do on the beach because it's the shorter service, but also it's a spiritual place for people who come out to the Hamptons to be by the water. A great teaching that I love from Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael. They're asking the question, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe be'eretz Mitzrayim. At the very beginning, they're drashing on God speaks to Moses in the land of Egypt, and they're saying, where else would they be? Of course, they're in the land of Egypt. The whole Exodus is starting in the land of Egypt. Why does it say the land of Egypt? And it says not the city of Egypt, but Krach. It's not the compact place, but it's in the countryside and the beauty of the outskirts of the land of in Egypt that God speaks to Moses. And then it goes into this exposition as to where God speaks to us. And one of the places, El Al Makom Maim Tahor, by places of pure water.
Oh, nice.
There's some kind of spirituality that exists. We feel that God talks to us by places of water. So when we're by the beach, we really feel that. For the high holidays, it's one of the most magical experiences that draws people in, people who you wouldn't normally expect at an Erev Rosh Hashanah service. And simply by changing the venue from being at the shul to at the beach, we grew the attendance threefold, fourfold.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Really extraordinary numbers. And it's the reminder that sometimes when you do things differently, same service, different place, you actually really engage people in ways that you never thought you could. We also do Shabbat on the beach, which is a huge thing out here too. We have upwards in August at Shabbat on the beach of 400 people at the beach for Shabbat services in the Hamptons who choose. They make this the beginning part of their weekend to celebrate Shabbat with us at the beach. And it's the thing that people talk about in terms of the Jewish Center of the Hamptons as to what we do that they remember and create the most memorable moments of their summer or their Jewish most memorable moments. So yeah, we do things a little bit differently in the Hamptons for sure. Same kind of Judaism, just sometimes in a different kind of place, or maybe sometimes in a different kind of way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the ratio of Zoom followers and in person? Kind of is Corona behind in the back window, or it's still?
One of the things that we do is we created from the very beginning a hybrid model of our service where we have people who are on Zoom. We have a giant screen in our sanctuary and we have them be full participants in the service. We're bringing them on for Aliyot. We have a Torah reader, this guy Bernie, who's in his 90s, who at the very beginning of COVID moved to New York City because his wife had recently passed. He was living in his apartment. He never leaves, ever. He was, for a couple months, disconnected from the community until he discovered that he can join us virtually. And now not only does he join us virtually, he's our Torah reader. He reads Torah every single Saturday morning, and I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that's keeping him alive. So amazing. The hybrid model is here to stay for us. And we have a lot of our worshipers joining us from around the world every Shabbat. We've got people from Tennessee, Florida, Toronto, San Diego, Sedona, Arizona. I mean, we're really bringing in people. And then our Torah study brings in a whole new crowd of people, all from around the world in different places as well. So we've been experimenting. It's not just a portal into what's going on into our community. That was the live stream model. But we're really, I think, at the forefront of how we actually create community between the people who are there in person and the people who are there virtually. And every single Saturday morning, no matter how many people we have, and Friday night, I make sure to wish a Shabbat Shalom to every single person in person by name, and every single person virtually by name, in order to try to connect the two communities. So yeah, we do have a strong online presence, virtual presence, but I think it's one of those good things that came out of COVID. It pushed us to develop, it pushed us to evolve in a way that I don't think we would have were it not have been for us being forced to have and solely online community to begin with.
Plus, I think it tells you that, people can tune in anywhere, right? There are 100, if not more, services going on at the exact same time that yours is. So the fact that people are tuning into yours is, says how in a place where they're not ruled by the distance of driving or walking or getting somewhere or having a house there, then they're choosing that. And it's a vote of confidence in the organizations that are doing a good job and serving those people. And I think it's a virtuous circle. Also will strengthen the community itself as people tune in. And you see, if you're sitting in synagogue and you see there are a lot of people online, it makes you understand those people could be anywhere and they're choosing to be here with us, and that it kind of strengthens in a strong way. Although not being in that synagogue is a terrible shame, though. It's so beautiful.
For sure. I mean, it's a hard goal to get people to feel a sense of belonging when they're joining virtually, but we do our best, and I think we do a pretty good job. In fact, one person, this woman who was from Nashville, was joining us regularly during COVID. She actually stumbled on our service accidentally. She meant to go hear this cantor who she wanted to hear, and she thought it was at our shul, but it wasn't. And she started listening to services and she fell in love with it. And then she started joining every service, every class, every Torah study, every event that we did. And she decided recently, over the last few weeks, she's going to move out to the Hamptons. She just signed her lease, moved from Nashville to the Hamptons full time. And that was from her being virtually, finding that sense of belonging and then wanting that in-person connection.
I think that's a great, it could be, I would watch that TV show of somebody who finds a synagogue online, falls in love with the synagogue, is sitting there in Nashville, and then moves out to the Hamptons because they love the synagogue. And I think that would be a good premise. I could watch that.
I like it. I hope you live up to the hype of what she was experiencing virtually.
No pressure at all, Josh. You came to Poland in April with a group of rabbis. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what were your expectations, what you found? Again, I don't mean to say, oh, talk about the JCC and all of that, but obviously that was a big part of it. But just generally speaking, what is it that you thought you would find versus what you found here on your trip in April?
I felt that a need to do something back in February, March. I didn't know what it was, but I knew our community had to contribute in some meaningful way to what was going on in Ukraine, because we all had this just pouring out of our emotions over the refugees who were coming across the border. I didn't know what it was. And I knew I had to help in some kind of way. And we were just raise funds and send it to the UJA. It wouldn't have meant all that much to the community. And we had done several things, donations of medical supplies and clothing and things that were needed. And we had sent them over with the Ukrainian church that's nearby in the Hamptons. But when I heard about the rabbinic mission that was going over to Krakow, I said, sign me up, let's do it. I think that'll be a great way to direct our community's attention and raise money for a cause that I know they already want to contribute to. And our community really stepped up and really found this is a great vehicle to channel their attention to. And I wrote a lot about my experience, and I talked a lot about my experience at various points. So I went over also because I wish someone had done for my grandparents when they came from Nazi Germany to this country. I wish someone had done for them what I was trying to do for Ukrainian refugees, be as supportive as I possibly could. And when I got there, I found something extraordinary, not just in what the JCC in Krakow was doing, but what Poland as a whole was doing. Yeah. From closing down the malls and transforming them into refugee service centers, to Polish people opening up their homes to house these refugees, because there's no refugee camps in the way that there are in most other places. I also learned that every single refugee crisis in the world is different, and you can't apply the same norms and same techniques in serving refugees to the different groups, that every group has its own individual needs. I was just enormously enamored by the way Poland stepped up and became a model for how to serve a people who was in crisis, how to be a haven for refugees, and how to really sacrifice a little bit of yourself, a little bit of your economy in order to serve the needs of people who are truly in need. I don't think any country in the history of refugee crises has done anything quite as extraordinary as Poland has done and is currently doing. And it's not something that you read about in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post. At least you don't read about it enough. For me, that was one of the big takeaways, and something that I still talk about, and that I will be talking about this high holiday season as well, as a model for how we should be seeing ourselves in terms of being active agents and helping and serving those who are in need, and refugees in particular.
Yeah, no, I agree with you about Poland. It's been not only beautiful to see, it's been surprising, because the Polish government hasn't behaved so well before in previous refugee crises. The Polish people, yes and no, but certainly not. There was no indication that it would be like this. I guess for me, a lot of it, I mean, first of all, your community was incredibly generous, and we're so grateful for the support. And that's, enabled us to do a lot of the good work that we're doing and continue to do and will continue to do, is the generosity of people, and people in communities around the world, and none more so than yours. So thank you again for that. I guess to me, it sort of comes down to this issue of from a Jewish perspective, considering our history, is just what is the response? We can be bitter toward the world, and we can say, oh, you didn't help us, so we're not going to help you, and nobody cared about us, and it can make us bitter and draw in, or it can make us say, wait a minute, the only possible correct, adult, helpful response to being treated poorly is to learn from that and not treat others as you've been treated. And it seems like it's so easy to say that, not so easy to do that, and not so easy for us, especially to resent others as Jews. But you talk about with Syrian refugees, and I remember talking to different organizations, World Jewish Relief, that built the JCC, and they were very early involved in the Jewish world helping Syrian refugees. And people are like, those Syrians all hate us, they would kill us, why should we help them? And it's very hard to see beyond that, especially when we have this idea, certainly in the Jewish world, from Israel, being a friar, don't be a sucker. We can't, these people don't like us, why should we help them? And trying to see beyond that, to see the humanity in others, and this need, and to think, as you said it exactly, your grandparents, certain things weren't done for our ancestors, for your grandparents, and now that we have an opportunity, how do we not do that for others?
Yeah. I agree completely. And I love the fact that I've gotten a lot of, even someone who I set Ed up with recently says, I want to welcome a refugee family. I'm going to support them. I want to give my apartment to them, and I'm going to let them stay there rent free. But can you find me a Jewish family? Yeah. Came out of, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. I think you told the story about someone who came in and said, here's a bunch of cash. Can you give it to a Jewish family among the Ukrainian refugees? Yeah. Which there are Jews who are coming over from Ukraine, right. And we do want to help our own people, but we miss the point when we do that. It's not only about serving our own community, we're serving everybody, we're serving the world, and we've got, if we're going to help refugees, we can't help only our refugees. I love the fact that HIAS, which used to be called the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, they used to serve Jewish refugees who were coming over from Russia or from Germany or wherever. And their slogan was, we used to help people because they were Jews, and now we help people because we are Jews.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's always stuck with me as a really powerful idea. We help everybody because we're Jews, and because we were strangers in the land of Egypt, we were refugees ourselves, and our responsibility is to love the stranger, not just to love those who are kamocha, those who are like you.
Absolutely. So a frustration for us is, those people who offer us money only for Jews, and we were able to, and I've discussed that with Rabbi Avi many times over the last 6 months, but also there are organizations and large Jewish organizations who now are saying to us, we love what you're doing, but we only have money for Jews, which is a challenge. And you mentioned UJA, and I'm very proud of our work with UJA and their support of ours. And they are an organization that believes in helping everybody. And I think that's the way that we should try to be. Of course, maybe we have a particular responsibility to take care of others in the family, but it doesn't mean, that we have just as much of a responsibility to help others. I want to talk just one final thought before I have a couple closing questions that I always close with. Right, I think it was the day after I had dinner with you, I open up the newspaper, or I see somewhere online, of your bases loaded, bottom of the ninth home run in the softball, the artists versus writers softball game in the Hamptons. Can you talk us through this great moment in sports history, Josh Franklin?
Hey, I'm not the only Jewish softball player, baseball player, but this artist writers Hampton softball game has been going on for 75 years. It brings in a lot of big personalities. Bill Clinton is one of the umps of the game, our former president in the United States. And, Carl Bernstein is the first base coach. He's the guy who exposed Watergate and the whole Watergate scandal. There's some heavy hitters in terms of artists and writers who are playing in this game. I happen to write for a local paper, Dance Papers. And on top of that, one of the organizers of the game, just, I have to be having lunch with him. He's like, you play softball? Yeah, I can play. And he's like, I want you in the game. So I played in this game, and it was a blowout. We were losing 18-2, and it's the bottom of the ninth. And we had this incredible comeback where all of a sudden it's like 18-4, it's 18-6, and there's one out, keeps on going. It's 18-17. We just rallied over and over again. Bases loaded, 18-17, bottom of the ninth. I just fouled two off, like way out. So I knew I was dialed in and had a full count. I mean, it was that moment where if you're a Jewish or even an American boy, you might have had this kind of idea when you were playing with your kids, bottom of the ninth, two outs, full count, and the next pitch determines the game. And I just was zoned in, got the pitch I wanted, hit the ball over the fence, walk off grand slam home run. It was reported everywhere on the Hamptons.
It's all over the news.
Yeah.
All over the news. Bucky Dent, like Bucky Dent, 1978.
Yeah,
Wow.
they talked about no one knew who I was because I was one of the only guys who didn't have my name on the back because I didn't sign up for a jersey. So the writers are going, or all the sports reporters are going, who is that? Who is that? Someone calls out, it's the rabbi. It's the rabbi.
Rabbi. That's a serious amount of Kiddush Hashem going on there. Walk off bottom of the ninth. To unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, that I believe it was like the day after I saw you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Moment I'll definitely never forget.
Very, very cool. As we draw to a close, a couple questions. Josh, are you on Team Latke or Team Hamantash?
Was that my favorite Jewish food? Is that the
Correct? You have to choose Latke or Hamantash.
Latke?
Good man. Latke it is. We have about 80% choose Latke. And a question that I always felt like I wanted to ask people, and now my whole life I bother people with this question, and now I get to do it and put them on the spot. What are your three favorite films of all time?
Ooh. I think I have really unrabbinic answers for this one. Maybe I have one rabbinic answer. One of my favorite films of all time is Exodus. The Paul Newman, Leon Uris. That's the Jewish answer to the question. Another one is a movie that people are going to yell at me for, but I really love the movie Gattaca. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Gattaca, yep.
And here is the answer that you would probably never expect: Fight Club.
I love Fight Club. I'm with you on Fight Club. Top 10 movie. It's in my top 10, and that's a good three. I will tell you that I have a friend from when I lived on kibbutz named Mark, who was a really smart guy, one of the smartest people that I've ever gotten to know. Really super smart guy, and his favorite movie was Gattaca.
Okay, so it's not. I'm not the only one then.
No. So there's definitely something going on there.
I'm gonna go have to check that movie out. I don't know what it is.
Science fiction kind of.
The idea behind the movie is if you can modify the human genome and create whoever you want and whatever you want in your children, super strength or not, but the best genetics possible. Is there a sense of human will and personality and something that's not genetic that really can overcome whatever genetic odds you might have stacked against you? That's it in a nutshell.
Interesting.
Good description. Rabbi Josh, great speaking to you.
Always a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me, and Shana Tova and Gemar Tov to both of you.
Gemar Chatima Tova. I'm very excited. I'm sure we'll stay in good touch. And if I don't see you before, 100% I will see you next summer. But I'm guessing I might see you before.
All right.
Hopefully
looking
I'll
forward
see you
to
next summer too.
And Rabbi Avi, hopefully you'll make the trip out, the extra hour, make it out to the Hamptons or to East Hampton.
Take that 4-hour drive from West Hampton to East Hampton down 25.
It's about right.
All right. And we'll figure out that bicycle ride we're doing. We're going to do, Josh is a huge cyclist, but the timing is very, very bad, the July 4th weekend. So we got to figure something out, Josh.
We'll try something. Or maybe I'll just fly out to Poland and we'll do a ride together.
Yeah. Sounds good. Be well, my friend.
All right. You too. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody.